Hey farts, I want to talk to you about a dumb bird that was literally this close to flying right into me. Watch where you're going, you stupid bird. I wanted to talk about yet another little bit of frustration that I'm dealing with. I was supposed to be making a bunch of stupid test quality videos of the iPhone 14 Pro, and they have been out of stock since almost the day they came out. I wanted to get that phone like almost 2 months ago. It's been out since what, like the end of September? And it's about to be November now, and they still don't have any in stock anywhere. Not in the stupid desert, not in California. None of the stores, online, completely out of stock. And every time I try to order it to just be delivered whenever, the date is always getting pushed back. It's like order now, and the soonest it'll ship is like the 8th of November. And then next time I tried checking it, it said the soonest that it would ship would be November 16th, and then so on and so forth. It's like, what is up with this? I have never in my life seen such a problem where there's no iPhones in stock at all. Like, I'm used to getting the iPhones like on day one. Like, as soon as they're available, I go straight over to the store and I get one straight from the store. This is ridiculous. Even during the middle of the pandemic, when the iPhone 12 Pro came out, they had those plentiful in stock. They had them. It was easy to get that. I got it almost right away, even though I don't think I got it until like, I don't know, November or something. But still, and that was because I just didn't feel like going anywhere. And then after a while, I just said, screw this, I'm gonna order it online. But now this is the first time in iPhone history where it is almost impossible to it's almost impossible to get an iPhone. All the people that got the iPhones already pre-ordered it like before they even announced the damn thing, and all of the reviewers, all the tech reviewers on YouTube, they had iPhone 14s and Pros sent out to them. I don't know if the regular 14s are in stock. I really don't give a rat's ball sack about those. The big star of the show is the 14 Pros. They finally got rid of the stupid notch, even though there's still a little pill cut out now, but it's smaller. Anything is an improvement over the notch. That was the biggest gripe that I've always had with the iPhone ever since the iPhone X came out, was that stupid notch. Just this big bolt cut out on the top of the screen, and it just cuts into everything you're trying to watch. You try to watch a video or play a game, and every time you look at the corner of the screen or whatever, there's just this huge cutout. It's just cutting into your content, and it makes it more annoying trying to see it. So at least with the 14 Pros and this new little pill cutout that they're calling Dynamic Island. I'm only saying that one time just because obviously that's what they're calling it, but I'm only gonna say that once. I'm calling it the pill. Just a little pill shaped cutout. Normally it's supposed to be a dot and then a little tiny pill cutout that's like almost the size of a hole punch, but it's a little bit longer for the Face ID. But either way, the iPhone 14 Pros, I was really looking forward to it because they were finally gonna redesign the notch and make it more bearable. I mean, it's still a cutout, it's still there, but it's anything, like I said, anything over the original notch from the iPhone X is a huge improvement. And at least in my opinion, I need a rest. I've been walking around all morning. I've been out here since like 8 in the morning. It's like almost 10:30. Anyway, so I've been wanting this iPhone for a long time. I mean, I usually get a new phone every other generation anyway. So basically I had the 12 Pro. I skipped the 13 because it was practically the same thing. Like literally one difference about it. Like there's like 2 notable changes. The cameras on the back were a little bit bigger. It's like every year the the cameras on the iPhones keep getting bigger. It's like pretty soon it's going to get to the point of where the whole back of the phone is going to be all cameras. Like, am I buying a phone or a camera? That's what it's going to feel like at some point because of how big the cameras are getting. On the 14 Pros, the cameras once again got even bigger. Like, I'm not necessarily complaining, I'm just wondering, like, how big are the cameras gonna get? Like, I think the iPhone cameras at this point on the 14 Pros, they are the biggest cameras I have ever seen on any smartphone. I've never even seen an Android phone. The biggest Android phone doesn't have cameras nearly as big as the new iPhones. But I wanted to do a bunch of stupid test quality videos, like with every stupid setting with the 14 Pro, and it's like, I can't do that. I still to this day can't do that because every single time I try to order one, they're still out of stock in the stores and online even. It's ridiculous. Like, did they not anticipate the 14 Pros being as popular as they are? Or is there like a severe shortage in supplies or something, and they just have a really low stock of 14 Pros? Because I think you can get a regular 14 no problem, probably because they're practically the same damn thing as the 13. Like, there's practically hardly any difference at all. Like, it's like, normally I would say it's more of a 13S, but it almost doesn't even feel like that. It feels like another iPhone 13. That's how little of difference the 14s are to the 13. So it's like, I get that they're trying to further differ the Pros from the standard iPhones. Like, I get that, but they're making it so ridiculous. It's like, it's so bad at this point that the standard iPhones aren't even worth getting at all anymore because there's such little differences with the standard iPhones. So it's like they're purposely trying to get everyone to buy the Pros, and it's like they don't even give a rat's ball sack about the regular iPhones anymore. Why even bother having the regular iPhones then? I suppose that's just for people that don't want to spend $1,000 or $1,100 on an iPhone. They'd rather spend, I don't know, $800. I mean, what's the difference? It's like a couple $100 difference, and you can get a new iPhone that actually feels a bit more like an actual new iPhone. That's why the standard iPhones, like especially the standard 14s, for the price, because the regular 14 is like $800. The 14 Plus, it's kind of weird that they brought the Plus name back. I personally like the Plus name better. Because seriously, like, I don't know why they ever decided to start calling it the iPhone Max, the iPhone 12 Pro Max, iPhone 13 Pro Max. Why do they call it that? It makes me think of some cheap $100 ZTE phone, because ZTE has a lot of phones with the Max moniker. Like, I had a couple of them. I think one was called the ZTE Grand X Max or something like that. From what I remember, I had at least two of those. And both of those phones were either $100 or $200. They were cheap. So whenever I think of the word Max in a phone, it just makes me think of some cheap throwaway ZTE phone. And don't get me wrong, like, the phone was decent, but I mostly got it because it had a giant screen. It had a 6-inch screen at the time, and that was back when smartphones still had big bezels from top to bottom. So a 6-inch screen on a phone a few years back, it was like a tablet. It was a pretty damn large phone. It was like, you could not hold it comfortably one-handed. Like, with most phones nowadays, it's all screen. So they're able to fit a giant screen into a phone that has a relatively small form factor. So you can basically hold a big screen, like a 6-inch screen. You can hold it one-handed pretty easily now compared to the old days, back when the bezels were like this. Like, the bezels made up like 40% of the damn phone. But it's annoying. I've been wanting to get the 14 Pro for almost 2 months now, and I still can't get it. And everyone is already talking about the iPhone 15 that is coming out next year, even though the 14s just came out. But here's the thing, the reason why everyone is really eager to see the 15s next year is because if you probably don't keep track of the release cycles because ever since the iPhone 6, they change up the design. Like, they do a major redesign every 3 years. They used to do a redesign every other year, but then they eventually, from the iPhone 6 onward, they started changing up and doing major redesigns every 3 years, obviously just to cut costs, because it's like, why would they want to completely revamp their manufacturing and all that noise every other year when it's not even really that necessary, especially when we're at the point of where the designs of most of these phones nowadays, like especially the most common ones that you'll think of, like obviously the iPhone, Samsung Galaxy phones, Google Pixel phones, the designs are pretty well matured at this point. So that's why it just seems like a waste of money and resources to be continuing to revamp the design and make it look drastically different when there's not really any point. But the reason why everyone is talking already about the iPhone 15 and we're highly anticipating this iPhone 15 is because we're at the final design cycle of the current iPhone. Because when the iPhone 12 came out, they did another redesign, and then the iPhone 13 kept the same general design with just, you know, a couple little tweaks here and there. They made the notch a teeny bit shorter, but it's still there. It's still a giant cutout, which I don't like. That's why I skipped it. I was waiting for them to actually do something drastic with the notch, which they did with the iPhone 14 Pros. And now with the iPhone 14s, again, this is their third cycle of using the same general design. So basically, the iPhone 15 is when we're going to be expecting a new redesign. And some of the things that we're expecting with the next iPhone is, number one, there's heavy talks about them finally getting rid of the Lightning port and having a USB-C port. And it makes sense because back when the iPhone 5 was out back in 2012, they said that the Lightning port was going to be the standard port for the next 10 years. Well, it's been 10 years, so the iPhone 15 is due. It's time for them to back up their mouth and put a new, more modern port. So with the iPhone 15 next year, we might actually see USB-C. And the part that's really annoying is that apparently the only reason that they're going to be putting USB-C on the iPhone next year is because in 2024, the European Union they just passed the law where all devices have to have a USB-C port. So your headphones, smartphones, tablets, computers, all that stuff, like just about every common kind of thing that has a data or a charging port, it has to be a USB-C port. So they passed that, and it goes into full effect in 2024. So that's why they could technically get away with the iPhone 15 still having the Lightning port next year, but it would really be pushing it. And they already agreed that they will comply with the law. So that's why they're basically indirectly confirming that the next iPhone is going to have a USB-C port. But I'm just saying they could technically push it until the iPhone 16 before they put the USB-C port, but it'd be really, really close, because then it's like, what about the iPhone 15s then? Whenever the law officially goes into effect in 2024, how are they going to continue selling iPhone 15s? Is there going to be a loophole where they can continue to sell them for a certain amount of time? And then there's other talks about them only putting a USB-C port on the iPhone in Europe, and then they're going to continue having the outdated Lightning port just about everywhere else. But then at the same time, there's talks about other parts of the world, including America, that are suggesting having a similar law in place to reduce e-waste and to simplify everything and just have one single port, one cable to use with everything. So that's why it just seems most logical for them to just put USB-C on the iPhone already. So that's the first major change that we're expecting with the iPhone 15. And there's another thing that's kind of interesting that they're possibly planning on doing, which is basically they're going to be getting rid of all of the physical buttons. So the power button and the volume buttons, they're apparently trying to get rid of those too and replace them with touch sensitive buttons, like pressure sensitive solid state buttons, similar to how the home button was on the iPhone 7 and the iPhone 8, the iPhone SE 2 and 3 or whatever, where they had a home button, but it didn't click. It was basically a button that it was like touch sensitive, and it had a realistic vibrating motor, so when you pressed on it, it would make a vibration feeling that felt like it was making a click. I actually really liked that. It felt really futuristic. So like, I'm just wondering how, if they do that, how exactly would that work? As far as, what if the phone froze for whatever reason, because everything's buggy nowadays. So what would happen if the whole phone froze for whatever reason and you had to force restart it? If it's relying on software buttons across the board at this point, how's that going to work? And then, is it going to work with a case? Because I heard a lot of these touch capacitive buttons have to detect like some sort of electricity from your finger. They have to detect skin and electricity input from your finger. Otherwise, it's not going to work. So what about if you have a case on your phone? How is it going to detect an input if you try pressing on the buttons if they're covered with a case? There's just so many questions. And then like another thing is, they're gonna have to put 2 more vibration motors near where the buttons are so they can simulate a click, so it'll feel like there's still a button there. It just seems like it's gonna weigh down the phone more, putting more parts into it. And then what else is that gonna do? It's gonna make a little bit less room for a battery, unless these vibration motors are super, super tiny. I don't know. All I know is I want the iPhone 14 Pro, and if some of these things end up being true about the 15, I'm gonna probably wind up getting that too. Like, just having USB-C on an iPhone, if they wind up doing that for the next iPhone, just that reason alone will have me sold. I'm gonna get the iPhone 15 for sure, just for the USB-C port. Because this is the only thing, my iPhone is the only thing that I have that doesn't use a USB-C cable, and it's annoying. It's not really that big of a deal. It's only one extra cable that I gotta carry around, but it would seem the most simple, most convenient to just be able to carry one cable around, one wall charger for everything, because I'm already USB-C across the board. Every single thing I have is already USB-C. I've already fully adapted to USB-C. I'm just waiting for the iPhone to catch up already. The iPhone is always playing catch up, damn it. What is their problem?